All right, good morning, everybody. Well, the world is buzzing right now with the recent news of Deontay Wilder winning his arbitration case against Tyson Fury, and he has been pushing for this third fight for a long time now. And it looks like, according to the arbitrator, who has ordered that it will have to take place by September 15th, it looks like he's got his wish. Um, I hate to say I told you so, but Bob Arum never really wanted this Fury Joshua fight. All along, he's been telling you guys or telling us, the public, that Wilder Fury 3 has to be in front of a live crowd. And he kept stalling and stalling and stalling until the country started opening up again. The country's starting to open up again. The mask mandate is already removed in Vegas. In Vegas, what's going to happen is June 2nd, all the restrictions will be lifted. And what does that do? It paves the way for Wilder Fury 3 in front of a live audience, like Bob Arum wanted all along. So, they basically used Anthony Joshua's name. I sound like the UK fans now, but I have to be honest. They used Anthony Joshua's name to promote Tyson Fury, to keep his name in the headlines, to keep him relevant. Bob Arum knew all along this was the plan. He knew all along this was the plan. And everyone wants to talk about step-aside money, right? It makes zero sense for them to pay Deontay Wilder step-aside money, and I'll tell you why. The last time, to my knowledge, and anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, the last time step-aside money was paid, it was back when Lennox Lewis was given money to step aside so Mike Tyson can go ahead and fight Bruce Seldon for the WBA title. Because Oliver McCall beat Lennox Lewis back in '94, knocked him out. And then Oliver McCall fought Frank Bruno, and Frank Bruno beat him. And then Mike Tyson beat Frank Bruno. Okay? So then eventually Lennox Lewis became the mandatory for the WBC title that Mike Tyson had held. But here's the thing. Mike Tyson or Don King paid Lennox Lewis $4 million to step aside because it made sense to do that. Because Mike Tyson was going to fight Bruce Seldon for his WBA title. And the plan all along was, because they knew they were going to beat Bruce Seldon, and some people even went as far, and it looks like Bruce Seldon took a dive, and I think he did, but that's just my opinion. The lawyers can come after me if they want, but Bruce Seldon took a dive, in my opinion, and the plan all along for Tyson at that point in time was the money fight with Evander Holyfield. That was the biggest fight that could be made in the heavyweight division. Because Lennox Lewis had already lost. He had that loss. Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield had a huge history at the time. That was supposed to be the super fight back when Tyson was the unified champ. It never happened, and obviously because Tyson lost to Douglas. But it made sense at that time because the titles were fractured. Don King, I believe, at that time, Bruce Seldon was the WBA champion. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, at that time, let me just double check. I think Don King also had the other belt. I'm just going to double check real quick. Let me just double check. I think Franz Botha had the IBF title, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong here. Let me just double check. I apologize for not being prepared for this argument, but let's just take a look here. Yeah, so what had happened was so Axel Schultz vacated his title, and Michael Moore and Franz Botha in '96 fought for the vacant IBF title. And at the time, for that fight to take place, Michael Moore had to sign a side deal. So essentially, at that time, it made sense for Don King to do that because he had leverage. He had control of the WBC. Excuse me. He had control of the WBA and the IBF heavyweight titles. So Michael Moore ended up beating Franz Botha for the vacant title. And in order to get that fight with Franz Botha, he had to sign options with Don King because, as you know, after that, Holyfield ended up fighting Michael Moore, and they unified the WBA and the IBF, right? So back in those days, if you wanted a path to the heavyweight title, you had to fight a Don King fighter, and in order to get the fight, you had to give Don King options, because if you notice, Don King promoted Evander Holyfield versus Michael Moore. So Don King did that because he paid to have control of the heavyweight division. It makes no sense for Bob Arum to even offer up step aside at this point, because Anthony Joshua has all the other belts. He has control of the heavyweight division, except for the WBC. So there was a reason why it was done by Don King back in '96, because the bigger money fight for Tyson was Holyfield. That was the fight that everybody wanted to see. So let's vacate the WBC title. Let's give him the step aside fee. Let him fight for the vacant title, and we'll worry about him later. We'll get all the other belts, which Tyson ended up doing. He got the WBA. He got the WBA, but he lost it to Holyfield. Holyfield ended up getting the WBA and the IBF, but at that time, Holyfield had a sign over option to Don King, so Don King was promoting Holyfield. So Don King had the WBA and the IBF, and through the process of elimination, he made as much money with Holyfield as he could, and then they went to fight Lennox Lewis. So at the end of the day, it made sense at that particular time. For the step aside to be paid. It makes zero sense right now, because there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Don King paid $4 million, and in return, he got Bruce Seldon versus Mike Tyson. He got Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield twice, which were two huge money fights. Those two fights with Holyfield were going to generate more money than Tyson versus Lewis at that time, because Lewis had lost. He wasn't even the champion at that time. He was the mandatory. So the fight to be made was with Holyfield. And the fight to be made at the end of the tunnel here is Fury versus Joshua. There's no other option. So Don King had other options. He had a path to make more money. He had a plan to control the heavyweight division. He had a plan to control the heavyweight division, and he was going to put off that Lennox Lewis fight as long as he had to in order to gain control of the heavyweight division. So then when he did sit down with Lennox Lewis, he would have the leverage. It would be two belts versus the one. And back at that time, the WBO really wasn't a big title back then, so no one really cared about it. So that's why that was done. But all along, Bob Arum was stalling out. He was stalling out. And he knew this was going to happen. He knew this was the scenario. This was the plan all along. So Bob Arum is going to take the blunt of the blame here. And Eddie's just going to say, well, Bob Arum led me to believe that the arbitration would not affect this event with Joshua and Fury. He led me along all the way. It's not my fault. I was led to believe something that was not true, and Bob Arum was the one who deceived me. And the public is going to side with Eddie Hearn here. My argument is, yeah, you can blame all three of them, but the problem is Eddie Hearn should have done his due diligence. He should have known that when Bob Arum was sitting there saying, oh, well, this arbitration is going to have no effect on this fight, That was naive of Eddie Hearn. Why would he just trust Bob Arum when the process has not been completed with the arbitration? It made no sense for him to do what he did. It made no sense for him to do what he did. And yes, he did reserve Allegiant Stadium because, as I've been saying for the last 2.5 months, Bob did not want to go to Saudi. He never wanted to go to Saudi. His plan all along was to have a third fight with Wilder in Las Vegas. I've gone on record, and that's what I've been saying for the last 2 months. And everyone called me a hater. They called me all these names. You don't want the fight. No, I was dealing with reality. I told you everything that I told you was going to happen happened to the letter. To the letter. This fight is going to, and I even said last week, 2 weeks ago, this fight with Wilder is going to happen in September. It's all documented. It's all online. Everything I said is online. You could say that. And it's not about Beeb, you're right. It's not about me. You know what it's about? How I was giving you information that was very plausible. It made sense. But you attacked me because the information I gave you, which was the truth, you didn't like it. You can't attack somebody for telling the truth because you don't like how the truth sounds or you're not willing to accept the truth that they're saying to you. All of you guys attacked me for that. You're a hater, Beep. You're a Fury fanboy. Listen, the way this whole thing transpired, it was the highest level of scumbaggery that you could ever see. This was, I can't defend this. This was underhanded. This was slimy. This was sneaky. But you have to understand when I tell you this, this is not coming from someone who's being condescending to you guys. Okay? History continues to repeat itself in this sport. Okay? The faces change, but the story stays the same. The faces change, but the story stays the same. We have seen this go on and on and on for years. They've continued to do this to us. Okay? They've continued to do this to us. And we have no choice but to accept it. I mean, we do have a choice. We could just be done with boxing. But again, I'm a degenerate. I pay for all the pay-per-views. I'm hooked. So I'm like that. I hate to use this analogy, and this is, I know everyone's going to jump on me when I say this, but I'm that battered woman that keeps going back to the batterer. So I can't complain anymore. But I'm not surprised when Beeb, why you don't care about it? Why aren't you mad? Because I'm jaded. I've seen this go on for years. I'm 52 years old. Okay? I've been watching this sport since I was 10. All right? And I've seen these types of things go on and on and on and on. A lot of you guys started watching the sport in when Floyd Mayweather, in the Floyd Mayweather era. I've been watching the sport much longer than that. So this is why things like this don't surprise me. And I'm not saying this to be condescending to anyone. I know more than you. No, I can't ignore the history. I can't ignore circumstantial evidence. I was calling over and asking questions. And no one wanted to go on record. My text messages weren't being responded to. So I had to take other avenues to do my research. And I was getting information from other people. No one wanted to go on record because they knew the scumbaggery of what was going on. Everybody knew Everybody knew that this was underhanded. And by me saying this was going to happen, by no means does it mean that I'm co-signing on it. All the UK fans are going to like, Beeb, oh, you're happy with this. This is what you want. No, has nothing to do with me. But again, you have to understand, it doesn't surprise me because I'm jaded. I'm fucking jaded. Nothing that goes on in this sport shocks me anymore. I went on record 2 months ago saying this was going to happen. I was 99.9% sure this was going to happen, given the information that I was getting, given how no one wanted to go on record with me. I used to be able to call Bob Arum up or text Bob Arum and say, "Hey, can we talk for a couple minutes? Do you mind?" Boom, instant response. He went silent. So I had to circumvent him from the process and go around and talk to other people. And I was getting a lot of information. Nobody wanted to go on record. Nobody. And it's ironic and it's so convenient that Bob Arum tried to put a happy face on this days before the arbitration ruling, because guess what? He was negative all along about the fight happening, and then automatically out of the blue, he becomes positive about the fight happening within the last week or so. So then he can turn around and say, well, I actually, you guys think that I never wanted this fight and I was negative, but I really did want this fight. It's not my fault that the arbiter went in the way he, made the decision that he made. So, and then there's another possible scenario that's being floated around there by people about the WBC could strip Fury if he goes to fight Joshua, whatever. But again, the WBC is not part of this arbitration, to my knowledge. So with or without the WBC title, Fury still owes Wilder that third fight per the contract. And Deontay Wilder is ranked number 1 by the WBC. Alexander Usyk is ranked number 2, and Andy Ruiz is ranked number 3. Okay, so the WBC has not enforced a mandatory for Tyson Fury yet. And to my knowledge, I believe, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, the WBC agreed to go along with what the arbiter said. They agreed to not enforce a mandatory until this whole thing was worked out. So the WBC is not going to strip Tyson Fury, and Tyson Fury has no other path but to fight Deontay Wilder next. Or he's going to have to pay, or his team's going to have to pay Deontay Wilder an exorbitant amount of money for not fighting, which is going to exceed if Team Wilder sues Team Fury for breach, then Wilder is going to be awarded whatever the potential earnings for the third fight would have been. That's what's going to happen. Okay, a step aside fee is not going to be as much as the damages for Wilder if he were to sue Fury, if Fury tried to get out of the third fight. And the people that represent Fury are not going to want to go into their pockets and pay Deontay Wilder anywhere from $15 to $20 million for not fighting. It makes no sense. No one's just going to give Deontay Wilder $15 to $20 million in damages from a court. And then that whole thing, you know what else could happen? People don't understand this as well. When and if Deontay Wilder were to sue Fury for breach of contract, it's not going to go to court right away. It's a process. It could take anywhere from a year, 8 months to a year for the court case to take place. Sort of like when Hasim Rahman, when Lennox Lewis sued Hasim Rahman. That decision was not rendered, I think, until like 8 months later, to a year later, if I'm not mistaken. So then that will put Fury on the shelf for another year. It just doesn't make sense for Fury at this point to not just fight Wilder the third time. It will be detrimental financially and physically to his career because he'll be out of the ring for another extended period of time while the court case would go on. So actually, Team Wilder's in the driver's seat here. And Bob Arum knew all along that this was a highly probable scenario that could have taken place, but he did not care. He did not care. And shame on Eddie Hearn for promising everybody a fight when there was so much that was uncertain. There was so many things that were not nailed down. So, guys, I mean, all these other scenarios. Oh, well, Tyson could fight. Tyson can fight Anthony Joshua and just Vegas. No, he can't. He can't just not fight Wilder without having to pay Wilder damages. Wilder's not going to accept the step aside. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to accept the step aside. It's the least beneficial scenario for Deontay Wilder to accept the step aside. The only way Deontay Wilder would accept the step aside is if Fury vacated the WBC title and him and Andy Ruiz were to fight for it. And why would Tyson Fury do that? Because then he loses all his leverage, and he loses all his leverage with Anthony Joshua. And I don't think Anthony Joshua would want to fight him if he didn't have the WBC title. So the best possible case scenario here is for Fury to fight Wilder and just get him out of the way. Let's read the quotes from Bob Arum that he gave ESPN. And this will tell you Bob Arum's plan all along. And then people are telling me in the chat, which is something I didn't know, and Eric texted me this morning, that Bob had reserved the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, which I already said was what Bob Arum wanted to do. He wanted to fight in the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. That's where he wanted. This is what he wanted all along. He wanted Fury to fight Wilder in Vegas, which is what I said all along for the past 2.5 months. So let's read what Bob Arum said to ESPN. We're not paying Wilder to step aside. It's better to get rid of him and go about our business. We can make Fury Joshua in November or December. Okay, that was his quotes. So for him to say that, it just basically tells you that was the plan all along. Just tells you that was the plan all along. I mean, I told you that this was going to happen. And again, it's not about me being right. I don't give a fuck. It was just common from all the information that I was getting. It's just common sense. Why do you think I was so confident that this was going to happen? It has nothing to do with what I wanted. It's what I just knew was going to happen. I just knew this was going to happen. So this is what we're going to have. Bob Arum was stalling all along and waiting for the country to open up because his plan all along was to put this fight in Vegas in front of a live crowd. And now Bob Arum can say, regardless if Fury Joshua were to happen, I'm going to be putting on the biggest event of the year. This is going to be the biggest fight of the year financially, guys. Fury Wilder 3. It's going to be the biggest fight. It's going to do good business. You can sit there and say whatever you want, but it's going to do good business. These people in Vegas have been starving for a live event. Okay? These people in Vegas, they need something like this to spark their economy again. They've been waiting. This is what Vegas runs on. They run on putting on events like this. So they're going to pull out all the stops, do whatever they need to do to make this event the biggest event they can make it. ESPN's going to spare no expense in promoting this fight. This fight, in my opinion, could do the 800,000 pay-per-view buys that the second fight did. This fight could have a much larger gate, not a much larger gate, but I think this fight could exceed the $17 million gate that the second fight did because it's going to be in a bigger stadium, and I think that but they're gonna make it so more, they're gonna have a larger crowd here. They're gonna have accessibility to have a larger crowd here. So Vegas is gonna pull out all the stops. ESPN's gonna pull out all the stops. And I think Bob Arum and Tyson Fury are gonna pull out all the stops. You got Deontay Wilder with all his claims about the cheating, this, that, and the third. You got Deontay Wilder's social media presence. He's always talking. He's always talking. As soon as this fight gets signed, mark my words, Deontay Wilder will come out of hiding. He'll come out of hiding and he will go full force and he'll be attacking Fury every day, calling him a cheater, calling him all these names. He'll be again, because of the backstory of this of what happened in the second fight in terms of his accusations and claims, right? This is going to be a huge event. Now, obviously, I don't think it would be as big as Fury Joshua worldwide. But again, Wilder's known in the U.S. Tyson Fury's has become known in the U.S. So to think this fight is going to be it's not going to be a huge event is it's just not true, guys. It's going to be a huge event. Bob Arum knows it's going to be a huge event, and Bob Arum will be happy because he can put the fight in Vegas and he doesn't have to deal with the Saudis. He doesn't have to deal with Eddie Hearn. He could control the narrative here. He's going to be the promoter here. Now, obviously, Wilder's with Al Heyman, but Al Heyman is an advisor. Bob Arum is gonna take the lead here. Fury is the A side. That's another advantage that Bob Arum has. Bob Arum is going to be involved in an operation where he has pretty much sole control over it. He has pretty much sole control over it. His fighter is going to be the A side, and it's going to be in the United States in Las Vegas, which are people that Bob Arum is very confident in dealing with. Bob Arum does not like dealing with people in the Middle East. He's had a bad track record with them. He's not particularly fond of Eddie Hearn. They've had their back and forth over the years. So at the end of the day, Bob Arum doesn't care what I think of him. He doesn't care what you think of him. At the end of the day, all Bob Arum cares about is his wallet. And then people can say, well, it would have been better for him to put the Joshua fight on because he would have got a bigger chunk of the revenue. I don't know that. I don't know how the whole thing was going to work out. I have no idea about that. I still question whether or not that money was there. I still question whether or not that money was there. I don't trust the Saudi government, but I trust Las Vegas. And Las Vegas has put on the largest events in the history of the sport, and they continue to do so. Last I checked, the highest grossing fights of all time, they're all in Vegas. Top 4 were in Vegas. Top 4 highest grossing fights of all time, I believe, were in Las Vegas. They weren't in Saudi Arabia. So, and last I've checked, Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, they've made offers for several fights over the years that have fallen through. I've never heard of Vegas offering to host a fight and not coming up with the funds. So again, I don't want to get too political here, but I look at empirical data. Yeah, they hosted Ruiz, Joshua 2, but once again, Wilder Fury 2 was a much larger event. It was a much larger event. So, like I said, this isn't about I told you so. This was just about dealing with information. This was just being able to see the writing on the wall. So get ready for Wilder Fury 3 in Allegiant Stadium on September 15th in Las Vegas, because that's going to happen. And You will probably get an announcement next week, or by the end of you'll probably get an announcement next week that this is the fight that's going to be made. And another thing too is if the fight's in September, okay? If the fight's in September, they're going to have June, July, and August to promote this fight. They're going to have 3 months to promote this fight instead of trying to rush everything for August 14th. They don't even have a stadium or an arena built over in Saudi Arabia. How would they have gotten that indoor? Because again, Allegiant Stadium is going to be nice and air conditioned. Okay, it's a beautiful facility, right? Las Vegas in June isn't exceptionally hot, right? It's a dry heat. There's no humidity. But if you go to Saudi Arabia in August, where it's 120, 130 degrees, and then you're going to have to rush to build an indoor makeshift stadium in such a short period of time. I mean, all these promises that were being made by Eddie Hearn, they were. I have to be honest. Again, I've been watching this sport for a long time. I'm not being condescending. I'm not saying I know more than you, but everything that Eddie Hearn was saying, everything that Bob Arum was saying, it just didn't add up at the end of the day. And I know oh, Beeb, you're being negative. You never wanted this fight, blah, 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 blah. No, Beeb was being intelligent. Beeb was using common sense. Beeb was using common sense. Yes, John. According to ESPN, Bob isn't intending to pay. Yeah, of course. That's what I read the quote. I just read the quote. That was the quote that he did tell ESPN. This is the actual quote, John. I don't know if you heard it. This is the quote. We're not paying Wilder to step aside. It's better to get rid of him and go about our business. We can make the Fury Joshua fight for November or December. Once again, guys, that Joshua Fury fight is not going to happen in November or December. If Fury fights Wilder on September 15th, okay, you got September, you got October, November, December. They're not going to be able to turn another fight around in 3 months. You can't throw that fight together again. The fight with Joshua is not going to happen until next year, if it does happen. And I hate to say this, but here's another problem that's going to happen because I think Fury's going to beat Wilder in September, and then Joshua's going to beat Usyk whenever they fight. And I still think that they could make the unification, but I believe Arum and Fury are going to want to fight. I think all along, Tyson Fury, he bought a house in Las Vegas, guys. This is his home away from home. This is his new adopted home away from home. I think he's going to want Joshua to come to the United States and fight this fight in Vegas. And Eddie Hearn is going to say, no, we want to do it in the UK. And that's going to be the next stumbling block for getting this. It's Mayweather Pacquiao all over again. It's Mayweather Pacquiao all over again. So there's a chance that this fight with Fury and Joshua may not even happen next year because I suspect and I strongly believe that Bob Arum's going to say, "Well, why we should do this fight in Vegas?" Fury's developed he's developed a following over here in the United States. He's bought a house over here. People are starting to know who he is. We could put the pay-per-view on here and on prime time. If the fight's in Vegas, we can get a giant live gate. If we put this fight in Allegiant Stadium, we could charge exorbitant prices for the seats here. Yeah, I'll give you a link, John. No problem, brother. Of course, without question, I'll give you a link. Sure, no problem. Here you go. it'll be great to get your opinion on this. So jump on whenever you want. But yeah, I mean that was a plan all along. I think that Bob, you can't even you can't take Bob Arum at his word that the fight with Joshua is going to happen in November or December. How can you have a fight in September and then then have a such a short turnaround and put the fight in November or December? It's just not going to happen. But mark my words, the next stumbling block is going to be Fury's going to tell Fury and Bob Arum and Team Fury are going to say, we want the fight in Vegas. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. That's what I believe is going to happen, in my opinion. So, mark my words. John, let me know what
Hello, dude. Can you hear me all right?
Good morning.
Morning. Right, it's afternoon here. I don't know that AJ would refuse to go and fight in Vegas, to be honest. I think it would just come down to financial package.
Yeah, so I still think that the egos involved could be a detriment, but I'm hoping I'm wrong. I mean, I think that Vegas would be the most lucrative place to put the fight, in my opinion. When everything's open, I think Vegas would be the most lucrative place to put the fight because again, a lot of people from UK would still come over. I think by the time that fight would happen, I think most of the world would be open. I think Great Britain would be open because most of you guys are vaccinated over there, anyways, right? Am I correct?
We're about halfway.
Okay.
We're about halfway through the process.
So by next year, I think it would be safe to say that you guys could be, substantially higher percentage of people vaccinated at that point in time. So, yeah. So I don't know.
Well, they think that everybody should be vaccinated by July.
Okay. Okay. So that'll open the doors for everyone to be able to travel and stuff, right?
It should do. I mean, I think the fact that AJ was happy to just do 50-50 in the first place, so he just wants to fight. I don't think he really cares. I don't think he's even that hung up on money, to be frank.
Okay. So,
I mean, the amount of money he makes without fighting is actually, I don't know if you know how many sponsors he's got.
Yeah, he's got a ton of sponsorships. I think he's probably out of all the boxers. I'm not going to say all the combat sports people. I think Conor McGregor probably has the best endorsement deals, with that whiskey thing.
He's got some good ones. I mean, he's got Hugo Boss and Jaguar Land Rover that people don't realize as well.
Yeah. No, Joshua's definitely set for life. There's no question about that. One way or the other, we don't have to worry about Joshua financially. So you may be right. As time goes on, maybe they'll be more open to negotiating and maybe giving up some terms.
I don't think they were ever against negotiating. Bob and Frank never actually came up with a site fee offer, did they?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know what went on in Saudi. I don't know what's. I know that Bob. Like I said, his plan was to throw this third fight in Vegas all along, and you can see that was the case because he had the stadium reserved already.
Yeah.
And that was
the fact that he started coming out. He started talking about this fight last couple of weeks. So it would seem that what you were saying is completely correct. He's basically used AJ's name to keep Tyson Fury in the press.
Correct.
Without necessarily ever intending to fight him in the first place.
Correct. That's quite evident. If I'm being objective, that's quite evident in my opinion. That's what he did. And
No, I mean the fact that you've got the stadium booked for the 24th of July also says that Fury's been in training for Wilder, which makes the training that was in make more sense. Because I'm not sure he's going to walk forward on AJ.
yeah,
Whereas if
I
you
don't,
all the training footage that he's been shown, he's been throwing body
yeah,
shots, he's walking forward. That's what he's been
yeah,
doing.
yeah. So it's hard to not see the writing on the wall because all of a sudden Wilder was showing his training footage. He was trying to put himself out there, and all these other PBC heavyweights, they all had fights. Everyone was getting fights in, and Wilder was the only one that was on deck. And you could tell that Wilder was waiting this out too. So
The
it
only
just,
thing with that is normally Wilder announces his fight immediately after AJ announcing a fight.
yeah,
So with hindsight, I can see that that's what has been happening. But prior to this ruling, I just thought he was waiting to announce his opponent once AJ had done his to piggyback off publicity.
yeah, yeah. So that's what I think. Now, do you think that when Bob Arum says we could do Joshua in November, December, do you take him at his word on that? Because I think that's a bunch of hogwash too.
Uh, I think it's an irrelevant statement that he knows he doesn't have to back up because
Yeah,
Fury's got
yeah,
to win this fight yet.
yeah,
Like the footage that I saw of Fury and what looked like a hell party in Miami at the weekend, it's not inspiring. And Fury doesn't. Well, he's never really been the runner in a fight, and he's going to go into a fight against Wilder, a massive favourite. Is he
yeah.
going to handle that pressure?
I think
he handles the pressure of being the underdog very well.
yeah, yeah. Because Fury's never ever defended his heavyweight title
So
ever. This will be the
I
first
don't
time he'll be
know.
defended. Yeah,
Yeah. But not only is it the first time that he's going to defend a title, it's the first time he's going into a massive fight as the favourite.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
that has different pressures.
it does, it does, it does.
So it doesn't really matter what anybody says about this can happen in November because Bob knows that he doesn't need to do that. He's probably trying to placate people because people are going to not be happy. Certainly here they're not. I mean, I don't think the third Wilder will do good pay-per-view numbers here. I think people just get up and watch the rerun of it. I don't think people are going to pay for this at all. In some ways, the biggest loser is probably actually going to be Frank Warren.
Probably. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think it'll do good numbers over here. I think
reports. Oh, yeah. I'll probably do better numbers there than Fury AJ would.
Yeah. Yeah. Could possibly. I just think once Wilder starts talking, once Fury starts talking, I think people are going to get interested in this fight over here.
I think stateside it'll be fine. The only issue you've really got is half of the target audience don't pay for pay-per-view. It's a minimum.
Yeah. But like I said, 800,000 people paid for the second one. So I have a hard time believing that they won't at least do 500,000 or 600,000 for this one. And with the $80 price tag,
I wouldn't surprise me if they do 8.
No,
it wouldn't surprise me if they sell out and they do 8. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I have a hard time believing that it won't do at least 500,000 pay-per-view buys because Spence versus Garcia, Mikey Garcia did like 400,000 pay-per-view buys. I don't think it's a stretch to think that this fight with Wilder would not do at least 500,000 buys. I just think people in Vegas have been starving for a big event, and I think when they get this event, I think people are going to come out in droves to see this fight. Then I think if they put it in this Allegiant Stadium, which I think can hold, I don't know, I think it holds 40,000. I have to double check exactly, but I know it's going to hold a lot more people
I think
pricing on
it'll
the
need
tickets.
to.
Yeah, yeah.
I think to justify the money that they're turning down and really turning their back on, I mean, they're completely turning their back on this money, really. Because it's all well and good, Bob, saying we could just go and do this fight again, but I think the Saudi money was legitimate, and I'm not sure how much they're going to want to deal with Tyson Fury and Bob again after the way that they conducted themselves.
Yeah, they're saying for a football game, this stadium can hold 65,000 people. For a soccer game, it could be expanded to 72,000 people. So I would suspect that they'll probably scale it back a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if they sell this out and maybe the live crowd could be 35,000 to 40,000 people. That's a possibility in my opinion.
I
So
think they can probably do a higher number than that, to be honest with you.
possibly,
Because
I'm being
you can
conservative.
put
Yeah,
seating on the pitch, can't you?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
and to actually justify the money that they're turning down, they're going to need a big site fee. They're going to want a very big site fee, however they manage that process.
now, can you do you
Whether
think
it's the live gate or however else to do it.
do you think by September people from the UK will be able to travel without any restrictions, or what is your opinion on that? Because if that's the case, I bet you a lot of people from the UK will come over.
I think it's happening in July anyway. I
I
don't
think it's
think
gonna
it's
happen.
going to be as late. It's
Yeah,
booked. The report
yeah,
is they've booked the stadium for the 24th of July. Presumably, that's taking into account the American football calendar as well
yeah.
and
Yeah,
availability of stadium. They've already booked it. That's
yeah.
why I think moving forward, actually doing business with the Saudis and Eddie may become a problem for them. And that could actually be a big stumbling block. Unless Bob puts it on in Vegas, it could be very difficult for AJ and Fury to fight. I think actually the best way to put it on is now going to be in Vegas because I don't think Eddie's
Yeah,
going to get a big fight deal
yeah.
on
The,
the back
the
of it.
relationship may be strained now. Not with Eddie, but definitely with Bob Arum.
Exactly.
So yeah. So
There's reports that they'd started actually building the stadium for the fight. And if that's, I mean, I don't know how far down that they've gotten, but obviously that's going to have some cost, even if it's just preliminary cost, that presumably they can't recoup.
so let me ask you this. So do you think by July over there people will be able to travel and come over to the United States?
Officially, it's supposed to be the case. All restrictions are supposed to end in the UK in the
So
middle of July,
okay. So John, we have to be honest here.
around the 17th or the 18th.
We have to be honest here. Obviously, this event is not going to be as big as Joshua Fury would have been worldwide. But this event with Wilder Fury 3 still has the potential to be a pretty large event, you know?
I don't think it's going to be a very popular move in the UK.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. Only real die-hard Tyson Fury fans are going to be happy with it because we've been sold the lie that Fury wanted the undisputed fight. He went on social media immediately after the Pulev fight, slating Anthony Joshua, saying, why hasn't Joshua called me out, and whatever else he was saying. On Sunday, he released the statement saying the deal's done, only just to find out they've got a stadium booked for the 24th of July. So to have the stadium booked that quickly, in the UK, people are going to become very cynical about anything Fury does on the back of that. I'll be frank, I don't think they really care. I don't think they're really banking on any sort of UK sales because his pay-per-view sales over here have been terrible anyway. He hasn't sold out any stadiums based on traveling UK fans in America. So I'm not sure they really care. I mean, that's what I think.
So basically, they're probably aware that Fury's starting to become a bigger name over here than he is in the UK. So they don't really care about his image as much over there as they do over here. I think they're trying to make an investment. I think by Bob Arum bringing him over here and by having that ESPN deal, I think the plan all along was to endear him to the American public and not really worry about the UK public as much, because he's never been really liked that much over in the UK anyways, right?
Well, there's a huge difference. Most UK fans don't really like somebody who talks a lot and doesn't back it up in the ring.
Yeah.
So whilst he's gone on and won fights, the Klitschko fight,
Yeah.
if you actually look at the build-up to that fight, which followed quite closely, all he did was talk about knocking Klitschko out in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
And he actually didn't, did he? He actually just didn't engage. His performance may have been clever, but it was certainly not entertaining. And if you look at like Billy Joe Saunders, he has a huge amount of talking. He's not popular. That doesn't sell here. Whereas in the American market, that sells really well.
Yeah. Yeah. So
to an American audience, somebody who doesn't talk is a problem. Whereas here, it isn't a problem at all. So I think they just don't care about the UK market, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what I think too, and that's kind of what I was.
There will be a backlash here again.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the villain over there, and that's what's going to kind of drive the fight with AJ, because AJ will be the good guy, Fury will be the bad guy, and when you have a good guy and a bad guy going up against each other, that makes for a great promotion. So Fury will be the one talking.
I don't think they need it. I mean, ultimately, most people here just care about the undisputed fight.
Yeah. I think that will enhance it, though, a little bit, John. I think it may enhance it.
It was already probably the case anyway.
Yeah.
Frank. But I don't know. Like, to be honest, I think that fight would probably be big anyway if people actually believed it was happening. That's going to be their biggest thing. They're going to have to push over the line. Tyson Fury's got such a track record of backing out of fights.
He does.
They're going to have to convince people it's going to happen. I think that'll be their biggest stumbling block. More than it, because here,
EJ's here. Yeah, EJ's here, John. Let me see. I want to hear what he has to say. I want to let him blast off here. Go ahead, EJ.
Listen, bro. Listen. We people been getting roasted. People they getting thrown left, right, and center. People are crawling on the bins. The UK's in disarray. The whole world is turned upside down. And the bottom line is right. I got something that my man Travis Dre he writ out, right? So I'm gonna read it to you, right? This is Bob Arum sent this out. I can't remember how many months he sent it out. He said we're not paying Wilder step aside money, right? Bob Arum told ESPN on Monday. So this is months ago, right? He said it's better to go to get rid of him and go about our business. We can make Fury and Joshua fight for November or December. That's what he said, right? Officially,
I read that already, EJ.
I'm making a point that you see there's evidence of these guys on paper trail of these guys actually trying to do what Hassan Ratman tried to do to Lennox Lewis, and Eddie Hearn was cahoots, and we were talking to Rafa yesterday, and he weren't having a bar of it because he didn't really suit how it is. But I'm telling you, these people out here, right? And these people out here, and I think about it, it's like, what would they do for a buck, man? These guys are absolutely outrageously scandalous. Absolutely scandalous. I'll tell you, when you come down to boxing, this and that, you wonder how the sport can be honest when you've got these people running the ship. Now, these people are lying to the people for months, for absolute months. In fact, near enough a year, telling them and they knew this arbitration case was going on. You know what I mean? What's their mindset? Or what, they deluded? Did they think they was just gonna get through it? I mean, Bob Arum he's 90 years of age. He don't carry that sort of swagger no more. Al Heyman is a young Harvard graduate, and this is what he ain't Don King. He learned from Don King's mistakes. He ain't gonna talk to you when you disrespect him. He's gonna leave you and ignore you, and that's what he's been doing. He been getting a lot of criticisms, but the thing is, Bob Arum, how long can he stay in the sport? Frank Warren needs to be held accountable. Ask him to send the money over. Why haven't you sent the money over? Why would you want the money? You know this is pending as well. You another one needs to be held accountable, and they see they're all crickets. Everyone's crickets right now. And no one's putting it out there. And this is why, we have our YouTube voices, because we really are the truth, are the real voice of the people and for the fighters. And, anyone who knows anything about justice and truth, they need to come past our channels. And we don't always get along, but we're going to hash it out the truth. And, we're going to say how it is. We're going to tell you how it is, because you know why? All we have is the love of the sport, or what we remember when we were sitting there with our parents and our family and we're watching boxing. But when we get into the details, like, this stuff needs to be cleared up, and we're going to hold Eddie Hearn accountable, Anthony Joshua, him as well, Tyson Fury, and all the others accountable into their thing. I don't know how long we're going to hold them for, because, Josh Taylor's fighting this weekend. So, we're going to move on to the next story. But I'm telling you, this stuff is like, I don't see how Wilder's going to win the fight. But I didn't think Joshua was going to be in the rematch with Ruiz. So I've been wrong before. But this thing is scandalous. One thing I'm going to point out, I was talking to Mr. James Ali Bashir, and he pointed out about the Josh Taylor fights. This will be my last one, right? He said, and this remember that, and you guys remember this. Remember when Barry McGuigan fought Stevie Cruz, and he fought him in Las Vegas?
Correct.
And he fought him in the heat. And it started to affect him from round 9, and it was 15 rounder, and his body broke down. If you look at the documentary on Top Rank, Josh Taylor's complaining about jet lag. He's complaining about, because he's up in Scotland and he rarely travels. So now he's gone all the way over to Vegas, right? Ben Davis left and went to Texas for the Canelo, and that's another saga I don't want to get into. Now he's come back over there, and he was telling Tyson Fury, I'm still a bit jet lagged. No, you're not jet lagged. You're dying from the heat. Now, Mr. Bashir pointed out as well. Now, that arena was outside. It was in the sun. But Mr. Bashir also pointed out to me, but in the arena, it's even going to be hotter. If he's struggling now and he's in a top rank gym out, so when he gets in the heat with all the with the fans and everything in there, it's going to be deafening. And I saw Josh Taylor, after every training session, they got some iron thing, and they're smoothing out his body after everything. He goes, recovering. I'm looking at him like, well, how about when you get a cramp going to the ring? It doesn't look good for Josh Taylor going into this fight. It doesn't. And Ramirez is a Mexican. They're used to that heat. They're used to that, like Stevie Cruz. So what I'm saying to you is that you might see the same scenario what you saw with Stevie Cruz and Jose Ramirez. That's my point. Nice one, Beep.
Okay. Yeah. Josh Taylor's getting stopped in 10 rounds. That's my prediction. I'll do a breakdown on that fight later. Let's let Maestro in real quick, man. Go ahead, Maestro.
Can you hear me, Joe? Because I got the earplugs in.
You sound beautiful. Go ahead.
All right, awesome. So I'm agreeing with a lot of what I've been hearing said. One thing I will disagree with John is like on the popularity of Tyson Fury. Like, I've seen his popularity in the UK. I mean, he's done radio shows out there. He's done talk shows like Jonathan Ross. He's a pretty big celebrity. And if you guys remember Wilder Fury 1, Staples Center was packed, and most of those people were UK fans that came over here to the US. Like, that was not a Wilder crowd. That was like a very big Tyson Fury crowd. So most of the other stuff that I think it's John, right? John, I agreed with. And I agree with everything EJ just said. What I've been saying to you, Joe, before this upload or this stream was that personally, I hold the promoters responsible for this. Fighters fight. That's their job. Yes, they talk in social media, but they're not lawyers. They're not litigators. They're not people that kind of run through contracts and understand these things fully. That's what their promoters are for. That's what their legal teams are for. And I've been skeptical about all of this with you this entire time as well, Joe. It's like the signs were not there to point towards the likelihood of this fight taking place. It was a higher probability that the fight wouldn't take place. You're talking about Saudi Arabia. You're talking about the COVID situation. You're talking about arbitration that had yet to be resolved. This entire time that Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum have been talking, this arbitration has been pending. That's highly irresponsible. I don't necessarily hold Fury or Joshua responsible for that, because they're following the advice of their promoters. they're paying their promoters to do this. Like, they don't know the ins and outs of arbitration. And, you know, for those of you that don't know, Bob Arum is a trained litigator, Harvard Law, was an attorney before he became a boxing promoter. So if you're Tyson Fury and he's saying, yeah, this is no problem, this is just some, you know, the stall tactics by Shelley Finkel and whatever, you're likely to believe him. So what is going to happen next? I got to think that you're right, Joe. Vegas seems like the most likely scenario. I do not see how a Fury fight can take place with Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia. But I didn't even think that fight was going to come off in the first place, because how do you build an indoor arena in 2 months? I mean, have you ever seen that, Joe?
I didn't believe, with or without this arbitration, I didn't think the fight was going to happen, because I'm still not 100% sure that the funds are there. They already had. I think there was a lot of issues going on behind the scenes, not just this arbitration. But that's just my opinion.
Irrespective of whether the funds are there or not, it would seem that Bob's already got the Raiders Stadium booked for the 24th of July.
Facts. Exactly.
So it really comes down to how much complicity there has been from both Bob and Eddie in selling this lie to the public, or whether Eddie's got played along with the public or not. And I don't know whether that's going to come out. I certainly wouldn't rule out either option. I wouldn't rule out Bob playing Eddie, and I wouldn't rule... The biggest issue I've got is what's in it for Eddie colluding? What benefit is there? Because they could have had to use it ages ago.
Well,
but they were waiting for an outdoor arena. That's why. They didn't want to do this in a TV studio.
Eddie's going to come out of this smelling like roses, because
they could have had it signed. I mean, yeah, but it's smelling like roses. But what's the financial actual benefit to Eddie in playing along with Bob? I can see the advantage for Bob.
It just continues to build.
We're talking about it. We're talking about it.
It continues to build. It continues to build both guys' names up, because now there's a new narrative. Now there's a new narrative, because AJ's name is going to be put in the press, whether he needs it or not. This is going to enhance AJ as well, because we're still talking about him. He's got a fight with Usyk coming up that nobody in the United States really cares about, but maybe now they may care about it a little bit more, because
okay, but let's just say this though, Pete. Let's say the funds really were there and they were able to put this fight on. They did build the stadium for Ruiz from scratch. They also took it down. So I wouldn't rule out their ability to do that.
That's an outdoor stadium.
An outdoor stadium is much more easier to build than an indoor stadium. It's much more.
Nobody said this wasn't going to be an outdoor stadium, because
Bob said it was going to be indoor. Eddie said it was going to be an indoor stadium.
He said that. Eddie on that. If you go to the last thing, when he said they were actually going to build it, they had indoor options, but they were looking to do something different.
But that's the middle of summer in the Gulf, though, bro.
If you look
you can't.
At night in August, then it gets down to 23 degrees. So I don't know. I don't know about any of that. But from a hypothetical point of view, if Eddie actually had all the different and it was done, what's the benefit in Eddie going through all that process to get this done when he knew it wasn't going to happen? No, he might.
Well, here's the problem.
But here's the problem. Of work and trouble to do something that you knew you weren't going to do.
Well, here's the problem, John. I'm not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. I never claimed to be. But the writing was on the wall. In my opinion, and I've said this for 2.5 months, Bob Arum never had any intention of negotiating in good faith with Eddie Hearn. And judging by all of the negativity he was putting out, Eddie should have known that. He's too smart to not know that. So whether or not,
I would say is Eddie's actually Eddie has got a track record of being hoodwinked in the past. He went to great lengths to get Wilder in the ring, and I don't think they had any intention of doing that. He also has offered Tyson Fury Wembley dates previously that have been turned down.
Exactly.
I would say there is one thing that you're overlooking. You can always sell to a salesperson. and
Yep.
whatever else Eddie Hearn is, he's a salesperson. But I'm not saying he wasn't colluding. I'm just struggling to see what AJ doesn't need this type of publicity.
Well, what does Eddie Hearn lose? What does Eddie Hearn lose? What is he losing? What is he losing right now by what happened? He's not losing anything because
this is what they lose, right? Yeah, he is, right? So they could have had the Usyk fight already. Number one, that's something that they could have already done. So there's the first.
But I'll tell you, the reason they can't have the Usyk fight yet or the Wilder fight yet is because they've been waiting for a large capacity crowd for both of those fights. They took a wash on the Pulev fight when they fought indoors. They took a bath on that fight. They didn't make money on that fight.
At the end of
Are you sure?
Yeah,
they took a bath on that fight? The pay-per-view numbers were.
Eddie Hearn said it, that they did it for the fans. He said it, and to keep Joshua active. He said it, and Arum has been holding on to the hope that before, if you remember last year with the delays, they wanted a venue for the trilogy
they
fight.
They only want to do Wilder Fury. 100% they only want to do Wilder Fury with a crowd.
But John,
whether no, hold on a minute. Because if you're talking about a crowd, there's nothing that says that Usyk, AJ has to be in the UK, because ultimately it's not going to be a particularly massive fight here. It isn't. It's going to be a big letdown from this. This situation will undermine interest in the Usyk fight, whereas if they'd never gone down the negotiation process in the first place, people were expecting it to happen. Now, maybe the bait and switch will work. Maybe that would work. But I'm not convinced that Eddie's got a clear-cut benefit that you guys seem to think that there is for him by doing this.
No, he's not.
No, not a benefit.
He doesn't have a benefit.
I just don't think it's a loss. It's just not a loss.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a benefit, but it's not a loss either. That's the thing. It's a stalemate. The winner here.
It's a lot of work when they could probably get offers outside the UK stage. Anthony Joshua fight. They've got plenty of places to stage this fight outside the UK and get
John. That stadium that they're building in Saudi right now, guess what event that's going to hold? Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. So that was Eddie's backup plan all along.
I don't think that will happen, to be honest.
I bet you dollars to donuts that Usyk Joshua happens in Saudi.
And you know what? That's gonna be bad for Usyk, boy. In that heat, it ain't gonna look good. Because I tell you what, man, it's the same thing.
That's a good one, EJ. That's a good one, EJ. That's a good one. I agree.
They're gonna drag his ass down there and train him. Because you know Ruiz, you look at Ruiz, right? He went down there. You see that heat must have affected him. Because everyone was like, "What's wrong with him?" But that heat, that affected him, man. I mean, he's
EJ's point about the heat is really interesting because
that's Mr. Bashir's point. That's Mr.
The Wilder fight, the Wilder fight being a big banana skin for Tyson Fury. I can see it being a massive banana skin for him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, absolutely.
Why?
I got another idea.
Nah, he trains in Fury trains in Spain, fam. It's super hot over there in the south of Spain.
But still, Fury's okay. Usyk ain't, but I got another idea. I reckon Bob Arum, he's smart. Bob Arum knew this fight wasn't gonna happen, so I reckon Bob Arum knew this fight wasn't gonna happen ever. And I think what Bob Arum was doing, he was using Eddie, right? And using Eddie to get back at him. He said, I'm gonna drag him out like a dirty rat. I'm gonna make Eddie promote this fight. I know this fight's never gonna happen. And eventually they know they're gonna lose the arbitration. And what it will do, it help promote Wilder and Fury free. Because that's really and truly now everyone, the whole world is gonna be interested in watching that fight. So maybe Bob Arum and Frank Warren ain't so smart. They said, we're gonna set Eddie Hearn up because, like you said, Eddie's gonna come out and smell like roses, but Eddie's the only one. See, Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, they don't have to do no interviews. They don't want to, but Eddie can't leave the mics alone. He can't help himself. He can't help himself. He's gonna put himself out there, and they listen. the first question is, right, what was going on? He's going to try and blame Bob. But if he's going to be out there, everyone's like, nah, Eddie. Because most people I know, especially me, I'm blaming Eddie. I ain't blaming Bob because Eddie was the most vocal. You know what I'm saying? And he's the most vocal. So I reckon they set him up. I reckon they set him up.
I'm definitely not blaming Warren. He's been the most cautious.
I don't understand
out of the three of them.
This is what I don't understand. This will baffle me till I go into the grave. This will baffle me. Why do people have to defend? Like, why does Eddie Hearn have to receive no criticism here? Like, what is this infatuation with Eddie Hearn? I mean, this is what I don't understand. I mean, he's a promoter.
The promoters are at fault, Joe. The promoters are at fault.
Why can't people say though, John? Why can't people say that it's Eddie's fault too? Why can't people say it's Eddie's fault too?
Let me just point something out.
I don't understand this. This is baffling to me.
He knew there was pending arbitration. He knew that.
Hold on. Let me just say what I'm going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Eddie has consistently shown that for whatever reason he can't negotiate these fights, and that's his job, and he does actually need to be held to account for that.
Thank you.
He failed to negotiate with Wilder. He's failed to negotiate with Fury twice. People forget that Fury was offered the Wembley Day as well. So for whatever reason, whatever Eddie Hearn does, he's not able to get these fights over the line. That's the minimum.
He was even struggling with the rematch with Andy Ruiz, if you remember.
Well, he took Andy Ruiz to court straight away, and as soon as that court case got filed, they agreed to do everything that Eddie said. So that is different, but that's not a big fight. That was just a necessary part of getting a big fight. I just
don't understand.
Eddie can't do it.
I just don't understand this campaign to like absolve Eddie Hearn of all fault here. I just don't get it, because that's what I'm hearing. Oh, it's their fault. It's that. Like, Eddie Hearn made promises that he couldn't keep, so he's got to be held accountable to that. EJ's right. Bob Arum was mad at Eddie Hearn for putting in a bid on the Teofimo Lopez fight with Kambosos. This is revenge for Bob Arum, bro.
Absolutely.
You gotta know who you're dealing with. You gotta be smart enough to know.
Bob's been mad at Eddie for a long time.
100%. This is vindication for Bob Arum. Bob Arum wins here.
Let me ask you this, Joe. Let me ask you something, Joe.
He definitely wins.
Is there enough money, Joe, to put Usyk and Joshua and Wilder and Fury on a double card pay-per-view?
No.
Not a double card, but a co-feature.
No.
Even with the Saudi money, if that shit is legit.
No, that Bob does not want to go to Saudi. He just doesn't want to do it. He just doesn't want to do it. He doesn't like it. He has a sour taste in his mouth.
They've already on ESPN's website, they've said they've got the Raiders Stadium booked for the 24th.
John, did I not tell everybody he never wanted to go to Saudi, John? Did I not say that?
No, you're right. And I think this move also prevents future fights involving both.
Uh-oh. I think he's back.
Sorry. I think this fight also prevents Bob going to Saudi in the future, because they aren't going to want to have anything to do with it. If they've been played, they won't do business with it.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember when Manny Pacquiao was signed to Top Rank, and it was like every few months we'd hear about a massive deal coming out of the Middle East that would never materialize. Yeah. You remember those days, Joe?
This is payback for Bob Arum. Bob Arum played everybody. Bob Arum played this perfectly.
See? Yeah.
He played this perfectly, and Eddie should have been smart enough to realize what was going on before he started promising.
Absolutely.
Bob kept telling everybody this fight. Bob said this fight was dead in the water. How many times did Bob say this fight was dead in the water?
Yeah, he did. He played him like a violin. That's what I try to tell people. You can see it. He knew what was going to happen, and he let Eddie put his foot in it, and that's what happened. But, is Eddie, look, we got the big fight coming up with Josh Taylor and, Ramirez coming up.
Sir.
And our focus is that. But Ben Davis saga is another one. Mark Tibbs has came out, he's made a video, and he's told Kukan to come to his gym so we can clarify some of the statements made by Ben Davis. And Ben Davis, to me, is I can't understand it. 1 minute you're with Josh Taylor and you're over there, then you're in the corner with Billy Joe Saunders and you're back down there and you're talking on the thing. Where's your focus, bro? You're everywhere, but the main focus is Josh Taylor should have been Josh Taylor all the way around. Is this going to affect him? Because we got a couple of days. We're leading to the undisputed 140 pounder since I think the last time Meldrick Taylor and Chavez Jr. This is like all for all the marbles. And Ben Davis is the lead head coach in this corner. This doesn't look good going into that big fight. Go ahead.
To be honest, though, EJ, Freddie Roach has done that in the past, and even Ramirez's trainer Garcia has done that in the past in terms of like training multiple guys at the same time, traveling between cities to do one card and then fly back.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal, but Ismail Salas did that as well with like Joe Joyce. So it's not. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not uncommon in boxing.
But Maestro, what you're talking about, Maestro, right? It's and you make a good point, Maestro. But these guys you'll talk about are experienced, man. Like Ben Davis say they're very
24 years old. 24 years old.
Man. You talking about all them experienced guys. They know what they're doing. This guy, he ain't got no. Let's look at his experience, right? Tyson Fury endorsed him. That's as much as we know. What was his amateur career? What's he done as a professional?
Well, John Fury, big gypsy John Fury said that he was a personal trainer when he met Tyson Fury.
Well, what about this? But John Fury said he's gonna get my son killed. He needs to get shot of him. That's what I heard after the
EJ, you know why you're so smart? This is why I love this kid. I was watching Boxing Social interviewing Josh Taylor yesterday. And I was saying to myself, damn, his voice sounds a little hoarse. He's coughing every now and then. He may be sick.
Yes.
Dude, it's look, London to New York is 5 hours, right? That's a big time difference. You got to add on another 3 hours to that in Vegas. Then you got to add on to the fact that up in Scotland, it's hella cold. Like I've been up there. I've been to Aberdeen. I've been to cities up there in Scotland, Edinburgh, etc. It's cold there. Even in the summertime, it gets cold. And then he's going to Vegas, where it's very low altitude and very hot. It's a total different environment. You're absolutely right, EJ.
He's sick as a dog, Beeb. He's sick as a dog. Now, I got clarification on that when you see the documentary or the Top Rank show on the second part, and Tyson Fury came in, and Tyson Fury goes, "How you feel?" He goes, "Well, I'm still jet lagged." And when he's saying that, Ben Davis ain't nowhere. Then I'm looking to train in. Ramirez is doing all the right things. I see him doing the road work. I see him all the new things. Then you see Josh Taylor doing pad work. He don't look right, bro. He don't.
One thing I will say about that though, EJ, is that those things are not filmed in real time. Like when I watched episode 1, they were talking about shit from like 4 weeks ago. So that's the only thing I'll say. But I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying it's not real time.
But listen to this. You're right. It's not real time. But where was he real time? Where was he trained back then? It was in Scotland, wasn't it? He was doing all the training in Scotland. You see him running in the first. He wasn't running.
No. He was. Wasn't he training in Essex though?
No,
he was training in Essex.
Wherever it was, it wasn't Vegas, right? So
no, it was in Essex. But you're absolutely right. Yeah,
wherever it was in the UK. What I'm saying is that so when we come over to the second part is all in Vegas, right? And now all he's talking about is the jet lag when he comes to the gym. We see dudes with pad work. You see Ramirez working like a dog, and then he's working for his familia. He's the people's champion. He's fighting for his family. Over in Texas, wherever he's from. And
he's from Northern California. He's and it's the same time zone.
Yes, exactly. But listen to this. He's training like a hard. Listen, I'm telling you, man. Stevie Cruz and Barry McGuigan. That's what's going on here, man. I'm making a prediction out loud. So if everyone's put money down, I think they might start putting money down, and it might come a thing because the UK.
Ramirez is going to knock him out in 10 rounds.
The UK have been getting belts, but holding the belts is a whole new proposition.
Beating odds with Beeb.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. In a couple of days, man.
All right, cool.
I got to do it a couple of days.
Well, it's going to be a good fight, that's for sure. That's for sure. While it lasts. But EJ, you're making some solid points, bro.
I got
Hopefully,
Joe, I
Ramirez.
gotta get go. I gotta get going. I got work pretty soon, and I
Yeah, I
gotta
gotta go to work too. EJ, I'm
follow
gonna.
our routine of this cardio in the morning. You know,
Yeah.
all right, nice one, Beeb. Nice one, Maestro. Take care, guys. Peace.
All
for
right,
sure,
man.
EJ. Thanks, Joe.
All right, man. All right, guys. Pretty much said all that could be said about this. Like I said, Bob Arum never had any intentions of negotiating in good faith here with Eddie Hearn. And I told you that this third fight with Wilder was going to take place. And it is what it is, man. Take it easy. What's up, bro?
Bro, I didn't want to say this online because I didn't want it to accidentally go out. But yo, can you believe that shit I sent you?